The sky burned orange like a dying fire, and the wind carried the taste of dust and death. Vera crawled across the cracked ground, her claws digging into dry soil as the rest of the pack limped behind her. Their ribs pressed against thin skin, eyes hollow and dim. For 3 days they had tasted nothing but ash. The great plains that once swarmed with prey were empty now, burned away by storms and poison rain. Hunger was a monster inside them, gnawing at their bones, whispering that soon the smallest would fall and the rest would feed. Vera had fought that whisper every day, but tonight it screamed in her mind. If they did not find food now, the pack would die before the twin suns rose again. She raised her head, scanning the horizon. That was when she saw it shimmering like a jewel against the dead land, a human camp, small, barely more than a shadow near the black rocks. Her heart thudded. She had heard stories of humans, strange creatures that came from the stars, soft-skinned but clever, dangerous in ways her kind could not understand. Some said they killed for sport. Others said they gave gifts to those who pleased them. But stories did not matter. What mattered was that humans had food. They always had food. She lowered her body and let out a soft growl. The pack crawled closer, their movements slow and careful. The scent reached them first thick, sharp, and rich with life. It made her stomach twist in agony. Her hunter's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. They were ready. A single human, sitting near a broken metal thing that smoked and sparked. His weapons lay close, but his hands were busy fixing something, his face calm, like he had nothing to fear. Vera's heart pounded. He did not even look up as they circled, their claws silent on the rock. She bared her teeth, preparing for the chew. Leap. One strike, and his throat would spill, warm and full of strength. One kill, and the pack would live another day. Her muscles tensed. Her claws curled. Then something happened that froze her where she crouched. The human turned his head. His eyes met hers, steady and bright, like cold fire. He did not grab his weapon. He did not scream. He did not run. Slowly, he reached into a small bag at his side. The pack tensed, ready to spring if he drew a gun. But instead, he pulled out a small metal box. It hissed as it opened, a white puff of steam rising like a ghost. The smell that followed struck Vera like lightning. Meat, real meat, mixed with strange spices that made her throat ache with longing. The human tore the package and threw something to the ground. It landed between them, soft and warm. The pack froze. None moved. Their instincts screamed. Trap, poison, trick. But the smell was too strong, too alive. One of her hunters, the youngest, crept forward, his belly dragging in the dirt. He sniffed, then bit. His eyes widened as he chewed, and a sound escaped. His throat a sound Vera had not heard in weeks. A sound of joy. The others surged forward, but Vera snapped her jaws, forcing them back. She stepped closer to the food, her eyes never leaving the human. He stood still, watching, calm as stone. His voice came soft, carrying across the wind. "There's more," he said. His words were strange but clear. "If you don't kill me." Vera stiffened. Her kind did not trust easily. But the taste in the young hunter's eyes, the smell of life in that food, it shook her resolve. The human reached into his pack again, slow and careful. Another meal appeared, steaming and real. Her heart pounded. She could kill him now and take everything. Yet something about his calm, something about the way he looked at her, like she was more than a beast, made her hesitate. Her claws dug into the ground. The wind howled over the empty land. Hunger tore at her insides. She took one step closer. Then the ground trembled, a low rumble rolling across the plains like thunder. Shadows swept over them. Vera's head snapped up and froze. The sky above burned red, lit by engines. Ships were descending. Raiders, the worst kind. Her blood ran cold. The pack shrank back, growling in fear. The human's eyes hardened as he looked at the falling ships. Slowly, he picked up his weapon. The air filled with the sound of fire and steel, and the night began to burn. Asterisk, the night burned with. Fire in the distance. The raider ships tore through the clouds, their engines screaming like demons. Vera crouched low, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The pack whimpered behind her, torn between fight and flight. Hunger had made them brave, but raiders were. Death with wings. They hunted everything beast, alien, human, and left only bones and smoke. The human didn't run. That stunned her more than the ships above. He stood with his weapon now, scanning the skies as if he had faced this before. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, hard as forged steel. Vera had seen warriors stare death in. The face, but never like this. Never without fear. The ground shook as the first raider dropships tore through the sky and slammed into the valley. Black metal jaws opened, spitting out shapes tall, armored killers with glowing blades and guns that hissed with blue fire. The pack snarled and pressed close, hackles rising. They had teeth and claws, but against that? Against machines and steel? They would be slaughtered. The human turned toward her. His voice was low, urgent, but not afraid. If you want to live, stay close. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood the tone command, not plea. Something in her blood answered. She gave a short growl, a signal to her hunters. They moved in a tight circle around him, tails lashing. Instinct said kill. Him, take his food, run far away. But instinct also whispered something strange. This human might be the only reason. They'd see another sunrise. The first shot cracked the night open. A raider fired, blue fire screaming toward them. Vera leaped aside as the ground exploded where she had stood. The human moved like lightning, raising his weapon. It barked fire and smoke, spitting death louder than thunder. The raider fell, its chest burning. Vera stared, stunned. No one moved like that. No one killed so fast. He dropped to one knee, slamming something into the dirt. A box, small but glowing, lights dancing like stars trapped inside. He twisted it open and the smell hit her again. Food, warm, alive, richer than blood. Her mouth filled with saliva. Her body trembled. The human looked at her, then at the pack. His lips curled in a grim smile. Eat, fight after. The words were strange, but the meaning was clear. He was giving food, not asking for blood first. Giving even as death rained from the sky. The youngest hunter crept forward again, teeth flashing as he snatched the first piece and swallowed it whole. He howled not a war cry, but a sound Vera had not heard in weeks. Joy. Real joy. The others surged forward, but Vera barked sharp and low. They froze, waiting for her sign. Her eyes locked with the human's. He held her gaze, steady, unbroken. As more shots cracked through the dark, his hands didn't shake. His breath didn't falter. Why? Why would a creature like this share life with those who had planned to kill him moments ago? Why give when he could take? Her claws scraped this earth. Hunger tore at her gut. The choice was a blade against her throat thrust or kill. Then the sky lit up white as another dropship landed close. So close the wind tore through their fur like knives. Dozens of raiders spilled out, their voices like grinding stone. The human's jaw clenched. His voice cut through the roar. Move! And for the first time, Vera obeyed. She didn't know why. She just knew one thing: this human was not prey. Not anymore. Asterisk, the scream of metal split the sky before anyone could move. Something huge slammed into the ground, throwing waves of dust that blinded the valley. Vera's ears rang as shards of burning metal rained down like knives. A dropship, half its hull shattered, skidded across the plains and crashed into a broken ridge. Flames erupted, painting the darkness in red and gold. And out of the fire came the raiders. They were nightmares made flesh. Tall and armored, faces. Hidden behind black masks etched with glowing marks, their weapons humming with deadly light. They moved like hunters who had never known fear, spreading out in perfect lines. Vera's pack shrank back, snarls dying in their throats. She tasted their terror, smelled it on their fur. They were warriors once, but now hunger had made them hollow. One strike from those blades would end them like dry grass under a storm. The human didn't freeze. He charged. The sound of his boots pounding the earth cracked through the smoke. His weapon roared, spitting fire that tore through the first raider's chest. Sparks flew like a storm of stars. Vera stared, stunned. Humans were soft things, the stories said. Fragile, weak. But this one moved like a beast set free. He slid behind a rock, reloaded in a blink, and took down another raider before they could even turn. Cover, he shouted, pointing toward a jagged outcrop. The word meant nothing, but his voice carried the weight of survival. Vera growled low and drove her pack toward the rocks, claws ripping at the dirt. Energy bolts slammed into the ground where they had stood seconds before. The earth erupted, showering them with stone and flame. The human leaped beside them, his breath hard, his eyes burning like cold fire. He slammed another box into the dirt, a strange device, lights flickering green. Then it spoke. The machine's voice was sharp, metallic, words the pack couldn't understand. But the human grinned through the chaos. That'll slow him down, he muttered. Then came the blast. A dome of blue light burst from the device, rippling like water. The raiders hit it, and the world flashed. Energy screamed as half their weapons died in their hands. The human didn't waste the chance. He vaulted over the rock and fired again. His shots precise, deadly, each one a whisper of death. Vera couldn't stop watching him. The way he fought, it wasn't rage. It wasn't hunger. It was something else. Purpose. A fire she didn't understand, but felt deep in her bones. Her hunters felt it too. Their growls rose, their claws dug in, their fear burning into fury. They leaped. The first raider fell beneath a storm of teeth. Blood sprayed hot across the dust. For a heartbeat, hope burned bright. And then shadows fell across the ground. Vera lifted her head and saw them. More dropships. Dozens. Black as death, blotting out the stars. The pack froze. Even the human went still, his jaw tight. He spat into the dirt. This just got bad, he whispered. Vera didn't know the words, but she understood the tone. The kind of tone a predator makes before the last fight begins. The human looked at her then, straight into her eyes, his face streaked with dust and blood. "We can't stay here," he said, his voice calm even as death rained from the sky. "We run, now." And for reasons she could not name, Vera nodded. The wind had gone quiet. The only sound was the crunch of boots and claws on broken stone. The human walked ahead, his weapon slung low, his shoulders rigid like carved steel. Behind him, the pack limped in silence, their fur dark with blood and smoke. The night smelled of ash and iron, thick and bitter, clinging to every breath. Vera padded closer, her muscles trembling from exhaustion, her mind still burning from what she had seen. He had fought like no creature she had ever known, fast, fierce, relentless. And yet, now, his face was calm, almost empty, like the fight had cost him more than blood. She studied him through the dark, the strange shape of his body, the smooth skin that seemed too fragile for war. Fragile, yet somehow unbroken. They reached the canyon. Shadows pooled between the jagged walls, a black throat leading deep into the earth. Safe for now. The human dropped his pack and sat hard on a flat rock, head tilted back, breathing slow. The glow of his small fire threw soft light across his face, painting his features in gold and shadow. Vera crouched near the entrance, every sense alert. Her pack curled close, bones pressing sharp against their skin, their hunger a silent scream. The human reached into his bag and pulled out another box-smooth metal, lights blinking faintly. He wiped the dust from it with careful hands, almost like a ritual. Then he pressed his thumb against the surface. The box woke with a low hum, and light spilled across the ground like a ghost rising from the dirt. Strange symbols danced in the eye, glow twisting like living things. Vera froze. That hum, that light. She had heard whispers of such things. Relics of the first makers. Objects older than empires. Cursed by some, worshipped by others. Her claws dug into the stone. What is that? She rasped in her own tongue, the words a low growl. The human glanced at her, and though she knew he could not understand, he spoke anyway, his voice steady and low. Hope, he said. Just that one word. Hope. The device pulsed like a heartbeat. Faster now, brighter. The air thickened with power, strange and heavy, crawling over her skin like sparks. Her pack whimpered, pressing low to the ground. Even the earth seemed to listen. Vera crept closer, slow, wary. Stop, she hissed, though he would not hear the meaning. But he kept working, his fingers moving quick across the glowing surface, summoning patterns that twisted into symbols of fire and sky. And the hum changed, deeper, stronger. The box spoke. A voice that was not a voice, rolling like thunder and whisper all at once. Vera's heart slammed against her ribs. She felt something vast in that sound, something old and endless, something that should not be awake. She wanted to flee, but her legs refused to move. The human looked up then, his eyes meeting hers, blue fire in the glow. This will bring them, he said. My people, food, safety. Food, safety. Words her blood understood even if her mind did not. She swallowed hard, her throat dry as bone. But another thought coiled in her gut, sharp and cold. His people would come with ships, with guns, with fire. Would they bring food or chains? A hum grew louder. The light painted the canyon in a cold silver glow. And far above, beyond the clouds, something answered. The stars flickered. Vera's breath caught. This was not hope. This was a signal, a scream across the void. And everything in her heart told her others would hear it too. Asterisk, the first scream broke the silence like glass. Vera spun, claws digging deep into the stone. One of her hunters lay thrashing in the dust, his throat cut wide open, his lifeblood spilling black in the firelight. The scent hit her nose like a knife, familiar, too familiar. Not raiders, not human. Pack blood. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Her eyes swept the shadows, teeth bared. The others crouched low, ears flat, eyes flashing fear. Then she saw him, the traitor, Kor. His claws dripped red, his chest heaving, his gaze wild. He stepped out from behind the rocks with a growl that rattled like broken bones. Enough! His voice cracked, raw with rage and hunger. We starve, while you follow our madness. You bow to this alien thing. He jabbed a claw toward the human, who stood frozen, weapon raised but silent, eyes cold and unreadable. The canyon pulsed with the hum of the beacon, its glow turning the stones into silver knives. Kor's voice rose, savage and shaking. Food, that's all we need. Kill him. Take it. Take everything before the sky burns with more death. Vera lunged. Their bodies slammed together with a sound like stone breaking. Claws tore flesh. Teeth snapped. The pack scattered as blood sprayed the walls. Kor fought like a beast, hunger giving him strength, hate giving him speed. His jaws snapped for her throat. Pain exploded across Vera's shoulder as his claws raked deep, but she drove her head low and slammed him to the ground, his breath left in a grunt. Her jaws hovered over his neck, hot with rage, ready to tear. The human spoke. His voice cut through the frenzy like a blade of ice. Stop. It wasn't loud, but it carried. It froze her, froze the pack, even froze Kor. That one word, sharp as command, heavy as stone. Vera's chest heaved. Her teeth trembled against Kor's skin. Slowly, she looked up and met the human's eyes. He wasn't aiming at her. He was aiming at Kor. The black mouth of his weapon stared down like death. But his eyes weren't cold. They were tired. Tired and sad, like someone who had seen this too many times. Killing each other won't save you, he said, voice low. It never does. The words slid past her ears like smoke, but their weight pressed on her heart. For a moment she faltered, and in that breath the canyon roared. A shadow fell across the stones. Engines screamed. Light burned white as a sun. Dropships more than before dived like hunting birds, fire spilling from their bellies. Raiders. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Korr twisted under her, eyes blazing. This is your fault, he spat, blood in his teeth. You brought death. And then he did the unthinkable. He ripped a small shard of metal from his neck for a beacon tag and hurled it toward the sky. It flared red like a wound, brighter. Then the stars. Vera's blood ran cold. He had called them. Not the human. Not fate. Him. She barely had time to roar before the first shot tore through the canyon wall and turned the night into fire. The ground didn't just shake, it breathed. Vera felt it first, deep in her bones, a pulse rolling through the canyon floor like the heartbeat of a buried god. She froze mid-snarl, blood dripping from her jaws. The raiders' engines roared. Above, energy bolts scorching the stone, but even they seemed small against the sound that rose from the deep. A low moan, endless and hollow, drifted up through the cracks. Not wind, not earth, something alive. The canyon walls quivered, dust, raining down in silver curtains. The human turned slowly, his face pale in the glow of the beacon. His fingers stilled on the device as the hum faltered, warped into something older, deeper, like it was answering a call it was never meant to make. Then the stone split. The earth cracked open with a shriek, like the world tearing its own skin. Heat blasted upward, choking the air with ash and sparks. The pack scattered, tails slashing the dark as the fissure widened. From the black wound in the ground, something rose, something that had no right to exist under Star's dot. It came in silence. After the scream. Silent, but its shape screamed madness. A tower of bone and steel fused with flesh, eyes burning like coals sunk deep in molten skulls. Its limbs were too many, too long, coiling in the dark like serpents of iron and fire. Sigils crawled across its body, glowing with light older than time. The air turned heavy, crushing lungs, squeezing thought into terror. The raiders faltered. For the first time, their perfect lines broke. They had come for slaves and tech, but this was not in their gods or war songs. Their weapons flashed, blue fire ripping into the beast's hide, but the bolts sank like stones into the ocean. The thing moved slow at first, then with a speed that shattered reason. One limb scythed through the air, and a dropship fell like a dead star, torn in half. The pack howled, a sound of raw panic. Some fled into the night, their shadows swallowed by dust. Others clung to the rocks, whimpering like pups. Vera couldn't move, her legs locked, her mind screaming, but her body deaf to the call. The human stood. He stood with the beacon blazing in his hands, like a shard of a dead sun. His jaw was clenched, his eyes fixed on the impossible horror climbing from the wound in the earth. He wasn't fearless. She saw the tremor in his hands, but he faced it. Faced it when everything born of fur or flesh should have fled. Not today, he whispered, voice breaking like a vow carved into stone. He turned, shoving the beacon into the ground. Lights burst upward, stabbing the sky, wild and violent. A scream of light to the stars. His fingers flew across its surface, dragging symbols into patterns no mortal should know. The hum rose to a shriek, matching the roar of the thing from the deep. Then he looked at her. Just once. His eyes were fire, not like hunger, not like war fire, like the last breath before death. "Run," he said, and before she could answer, the creature moved. The canyon shattered as its limbs tore through the rock, reaching for the beacon, for the human who dared command its sleep. Energy flared. The ground became light and fury, and the night screamed with a sound no throat should make. And Vera ran with her pack at her heels, ran until the fire lit the sky behind her, and the shadow of that ancient horror blotted out the moons. The sky was no longer black. It burned silver, streaked with the fire of ships that came like fallen stars. The roar of guns echoed across the plain, tearing through the night, drowning out the last screams of raiders and the unholy roar of the thing they had woken. And then silence, not peace. Silence, heavy, aching, the kind that feels like a wound. In the world, Vera crawled from the broken canyon, her body shaking with exhaustion, her fur matted with blood and ash. Behind her, the survivors of her pack limped one by one, their eyes empty with shock. They should have been dead. They would have been if not for him. She looked back once. The canyon was gone. In its place lay a scar of black glass, molten and endless, where the creature had torn free and died under fire that rained from the heavens. Human ships. Dozens, maybe hundreds, their engines whispering like ghosts as they settled on the broken plain. Vera's throat tightened. She remembered the last thing she saw before the light swallowed the world. The human standing against the beast, the beacon screaming in his hands, his voice a whisper carried on fire. Run, she had run. And now she did not know if he still lived. The ground trembled as the first human soldiers stepped from their ships, clad in armor bright as stars. They moved like rivers of steel, their weapons silent now, but heavy with promise. One of them saw her and froze. Guns lifted, a dozen, eyes locking on her and her broken pack. She bared her teeth out of instinct, a low growl tearing her throat. If they wanted to kill her now, she would not beg. Then a voice broke the stillness. A voice she knew. Stand down. It was soft, but it struck like thunder in her chest. She turned, and there he was. The human walked through the soldiers like a shadow torn from the fire. His armor was cracked, his skin burned in places, his blood painting the dirt. But he walked, alive. His eyes found hers, and for a moment the world fell away. The ships, the guns, the dead sky. There was only that look. That strange, steady fire. He stopped a few steps away, his breath harsh, his voice rough as gravel. Told you, he murmured. Hope. The word hit her harder than any blade. Hope. She had no word for it in her tongue, but she understood now. It wasn't the food. It wasn't the fight. It was him standing when everything else fell. She crawled closer slow, her claws scratching the stone. She lowered her head, pressing her brow to the dirt at his feet, not as prey, not as enemy, as something new. Her pack followed, one by one, until the broken valley echoed with a silence that was not fear anymore, but a promise. The human knelt, his hand rough and warm as it touched her head. No chains, no threats, just touch, soft as breath. His voice was low, meant only for her. "You're safe now," he said. "All of you." She raised her head, meeting his gaze. And in that moment, something old and bitter inside her broke. Something new bloomed, fragile as the first green shoot after endless winter dot far above. The human ships roared to life, carrying the night away on wings of flame. And in the hush that followed, under a sky no longer empty, Vera spoke a word she had never said to anyone, a word her kind had almost forgotten. Together, the humans smiled, and for the first time she believed it. *The end.